Hello, neuroplasticians. I'm excited to be here with Carla. Marcos, how are you doing? How are you doing today, Carla?
Doing great, thanks. Thanks, AJ. Very
No,
well,
no,
thank you.
it's great to have you on the channel. So tell me what you've been up to today. Actually, no. Let's start with introducing you to everybody so that they get to know Carla. So tell us a bit about your work in clinical hypnosis and tell us else what you're doing so that we can speak into the work around you're doing and neuroplasticity and everything else. Carla, so are you still in London, Carla?
I am in Harrogate. I'm in the north of England.
Oh, very good. Anyway, tell me everything. Let's start from the beginning.
Beginning of times. Okay.
Back in time.
A little bit closer. My name is Carla Marcus, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. And I help my clients to use their mind to their advantage. That's basically what I do, JJ, because when my clients come to see me, they mainly use their mind, not to their advantage, but to their disadvantage unknowingly. And what we do is that, a lot of brain training, thanks to our wonderful neuroplasticity.
That's brilliant. So tell me about what works in your practice. We're interested in understanding how the process of neuroplasticity is influenced by your work in hypnosis. So maybe just let's go back. Just give us a little overview of your understanding of hypnotherapy, and then we'll dive into the neuroscience thereof. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Very good. Well, I am a solution-focused hypnotherapist. So what I do is a blend of psychotherapy and hypnosis. Is brain-based therapy. That's why it's so powerful, because we use psychotherapy, we learn about the brain, we learn how our brain works, and then we use hypnosis. And that's what makes it different from other approaches within hypnotherapy.
That's very interesting. I got a deep interest in hypnosis as well. So how do you find relevance of understanding the brain useful in your practice as a hypnotherapist? How is that useful?
Well, it's very useful. It's like with brain-based therapies, as you know, it's just like we open the black box of the brain in the
Mm,
consulting room, so our clients can see their problems from a very different perspective. They can understand what's happening in the brain,
mm.
and it's really, really empowering, because sometimes when we don't understand what's going on, we can feel quite helpless and hopeless. But once we understand what's happening and that we can do a lot to change things, that's very empowering, isn't it? So that's the first step to feeling better, understanding that change is possible and possible change is
Tell us a story, because I love what you're saying. Tell us a story about how that knowledge of the brain's function, neuroplasticity, activity of neurotransmission, or everything else within it. How is that body of knowledge useful for your clients?
very, very useful. Let's think about other forms of therapy, different forms of therapy in which they're perhaps more focused in having the client gaining insight. We are a little bit, we throw little glances back into the past to understand how we develop certain behaviors, acquired certain beliefs, but we don't stay there for very long. We just focus on the present and the future. But some forms of therapy perhaps just want to focus more on the inside of things, just gaining insight, and that sometimes makes the client feel really guilty, because they feel guilty about what happened to them,
Mm,
or what guilt increases the anxiety for a start. So we don't want, as you know, with working with the brain, we don't want to increase anxiety, because we go to our primitive part of the brain, our limbic system, anxiety goes up, the amygdala gets very active, and we cannot do solution focused work. We cannot use our cortex very much, and we need this part of the brain very active and accessible to do the solution focused work. So for a start, it removes the guilt, because people understand that this is normal. This is what happens. This is what happens when we are under excessive pressure. We will respond with anxiety, anger, depression. This is not that I'm broken, defective, there's something wrong with me. This is natural. And once we understand it, and we know as well that a lot of the anxiety is self-created, and a lot of the anxieties was driving the coping strategies, etc., we feel more in control. And that's what most people are lacking when they come to see you in therapy. They feel out of control with their lives, emotions, everything.
Control is the key. I completely agree. I wanted to ask you a question about hypnosis and the brain. And a lot of people will be thinking this, or even unconsciously wanting to know about what happens in the brain when a person goes into an hypnotic trance. What happens in the brain that changes consciousness, conscious awareness, changing perception? What happens in the brain during that hypnotic induction?
Lots happens in the brain during that time.
One minute,
Wonderful things happen.
One minute you're conscious, like
Yeah.
you're speaking to me, and the next minute you're quacking like a duck. Just kidding.
Oh,
Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
yes,
Just
of
kidding.
course.
But the next part of the hypnotic trance is that you are internally focused, or you visualizing, or you experiencing another dimension, another perception lens. But tell me the difference. So 1 minute I'm speaking to you now, okay, and the next minute I'm in a trance. What has happened in the brain from A, speaking, to B, hypnotic trance?
What happens is that your subconscious mind has gained territory, has increased its territory, because a nice way of seeing it, an easy way of visualizing it, it helps to visualize this, is that we can think about the subconscious mind as a tide which ebbs and flows.
Just stop me for a second. Don't tell me about the mind, tell me about the brain, because the mind is another project altogether. Let's speak about the brain, because we can speak about the mind in a second, but let's first speak about the neurology. So 1 minute I'm chatting to Carla, and the next minute I'm listening to your hypnotic language protocols, or I am doing whatever you want me to be doing during a trance. So what's happened in my brain between A and B?
Well, when you relax, and that's why we listen to the sleep hypnosis recording just before we go to sleep, mainly is when it's ideal, is because our brain, the wave brains change. And we do it, the best time to do it is when our brain is in zeta wave state, which is when we are more susceptible to receive those suggestions that we present through with the hypnotic language patterns. The brave wave changes at that point, and it's
sorry, I'm interrupting you so much. I'm so
Oh,
interested.
no, just go for it.
I'm having a lot of thinking around consciousness at the moment.
Yeah.
And hypnosis is, let's call it a gatekeeper to the unconscious mind. So now tell me about the mind, because we've now finished with the brain, and you helped me understand that getting into theta relaxes the noise at that executive function level, and lets me be less aroused, less excitatory, if you speak about the neurotransmission. So now tell me what's happening on in the mind as we move into a more hypnotic, unconscious space.
When we create that, when we are in that moment, when what we do is basically bypassing the conscious critical faculty, which is that, our conscious critical faculty will be vigilant and not letting any suggestions that might clash with our preconceived ideas, beliefs, etc., if they are don't coincide, or if they clash in some way. And even if those suggestions are really beneficial for us, okay, so once we have that state, we are relaxed, we are more open to receive those suggestions. Okay, so then what happens with our conscious and subconscious mind? As I said, the tide example to me is it's just very visual, because you think about the subconscious mind as a tide which ebbs and flows. In sleep, when we go into sleep properly, it seems it kind of submerges consciousness completely altogether. Okay. Well, at moments of full wakefulness, the tide is at its lowest ebb. So, but between these two extremes, there are a number of intermediary states. So sometimes, for example, if we are feeling a little bit drowsy, or we're listening to some relaxing music, our subconscious might gain a little bit more space, and we might be a little bit more dreamy and change our... So between those extremes, or full awakeness... Sorry, I'm just thinking about... I'm speaking Spanish now in a minute. When we are fully awake, or when we are asleep, there are different varying degrees of consciousness that go between one extreme and the other.
Excuse me, I need to cough. I think that's a very, very intelligent answer about consciousness. My current thinking about consciousness is to understand the relationship between quantum theory and special relativity theory. And in special relativity, as Einstein explained, it is the reality that we experience with gravity and light and time and everything else. At a quantum level, those rules don't really work so well, okay? And at quantum, we can see that things can be in different places at the same time, and also can be different things. For example, a light wave can act as a wave, or it can be a photon if it is observed. So my current thinking around consciousness is that waves of awareness come and go. However, when we pay attention and our attention locks on something, that then becomes a photon of attention, which then becomes conscious. So, for example, right now, I'm noticing you blinking. So now all of a sudden, all I can think about is Carla blinking. But now she's smiling, but now she's winking. Even funnier, even funnier. I love it. So, Carla, the thinking around consciousness is very important to hypnosis, because you are taking, let's say you working with consciousness, and you are facilitating a person to have a different relationship with a concern. Am I saying things right?
Yeah, very right. And that actually works what you've just said very well with what I said at the very beginning about solution-focused hypnotherapy. Why is it so powerful? And because it's a blend of psychotherapy and hypnosis. So during the first bit, when we do talk about the brain and we learn about the brain, that's very conscious, isn't it? We consciously learn concepts, constructs, how this works, see things from a different perspective. And then with the hypnosis at the end of the session, that's the subconscious bit. That's when we can internalize what we've learned, because otherwise it might just stay there, just at a cognitive level. That's why sometimes things don't work. That's why I've got clients who are very, very well versed in psychology. They tell me often, I've read all the books, watched all the YouTube videos, but I cannot do this thing. Is because they know a lot at a cognitive level, but it's not internalized emotionally. It's not the program. It's not matching that. What they know consciously, cognitively. So what we need to do is to allow that knowledge to be internalized, and that they take whatever works for them at that time. But without that, there's not going to be the two minds are not going to be aligned. Their conscious and subconscious won't be aligned and won't work together.
I think this is a huge insight for me, and I hope for the listeners too. This is the bridge to embed, to trigger, to build neuroplasticity, because we know that the brain can process stuff and make us aware and have emotions, but we also know that for information to be learnt, it needs to go out of the executive function and it needs to sit deep and globally throughout the brain. A simple example that is always referred is driving a car. When you first learn to drive a car, oh, look behind you, oh, change gears, oh, indicate. But when you've learned to drive, you're speaking on the phone in the one hand and you're shouting at the kids in the other, and you're drinking a Coke in the one hand, and you're doing it unconsciously. And that is where the skill has gone and landed at the back of the brain in the cerebellum. So you don't have to hold that information consciously, which is due to the neuroplasticity building those habits. Is that what hypnosis does?
Yeah, well, we build new neural pathways.
Exactly.
What
I
we
love
do, and we just reinforce those neural pathways that we want, and at the same time we diminish or we stop using the old ones. I'm gonna use one of my props now. Now you ask this because I work online, so I've got lots of props. So what do we do? Because the brains are plastic, aren't they? They like clay, like
Oh,
plasticine.
that's is
What
that
do we
blue?
do?
Is that blue tack?
Yes, we
I am a
strengthen those neural
I'm a
pathways.
I am a blue tack.
Have you got blue tag? There's
I'm a blue
two.
tack
That's good.
addict.
We strengthen the ones we want really, really thick. And the ones we don't want, the ones we want to forget about, they just will diminish. We don't use them. We don't go there. The brain is very
The more you
economical.
play with more you play with blue tack, the stretchier it gets. I'm addicted to
This one is
this
just,
stuff.
it's been used a
Every
lot.
day I go for a swim. I put the stuff in my ears because I get water stuck in my ears. So I want my brain to be plastic, but I don't want to have hydrotherapy in my brain. So I think the point of having blue tack as a tool to visually
Mhm.
associate the process is highly intelligent. I think a lot of your work is leading edge. Carla, I'm so interested to explore. Maybe just tell us a bit about your background. Tell us a bit about your education into psycho and hypnotherapy and how that all works in solution focused. Give us a bit of an understanding. Who is Carla Magnificent Marcos?
Well, well, JJ, after this introduction, I don't know what to say. Well, I'm not, as you know, I don't know whether you know this or not, but I haven't always been a hypnotherapist.
You
I
weren't born a
decided
hypnotherapist. I thought you were born
not
as one.
always, no,
I
because
thought one day you woke up and the first thing you said was, "Ooh, let me hypnotize
no,
you."
it wasn't the first. Before, I retrained after a career as a lawyer working for the pharmaceutical industry.
Wow,
So
wow.
that's my past. Well,
Your previous life.
let's just move on. I come from a family of mental health professionals, and I've always been interested in the study of the human mind and behavior. I'm also a qualified nurse, so I have a medical background. And as I said before, just mental health professions are disciplines very familiar to me. My family, we have a neurologist, psychoanalyst, a psychiatrist, two psychologists. My father worked as a clinical psychologist and had a vast library on the subject. I love reading, and I've always really enjoyed learning about the workings of the mind from a very early age. So you could say that, well, I don't know, it wasn't like a radical change for me to become a hypnotherapist, but there was some dormant potential there that just got ignited, and so I retrained as a hypnotherapist.
So where did you train to be a hypnotherapist? What is the journey into being a psychotherapist or a hypnotherapist or both?
Well, I went to school. I trained in the UK. I've trained as a hypnotherapist in the UK. I went to one of the gold standard schools, but JJ? Where are you?
No,
Okay,
my
so
camera,
you left.
my camera is bombing out. Hold on, I need to find. But Karen talking. I'm just going to see where it's gone. I'm back. Am I back?
Yes, you're back. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
I've got a words camera here, but I'm here with you. Sorry, ignore
It was
my
brief. It was brief. Not to worry.
ignore my bad looking camera.
It's okay. Well, I went to a school in the UK and I trained here. It was the I picked this school because it's just wonderful, and it was really really good because it was the only one that I found that in which we practiced from day one. From the first week when we started practicing trance from the very, very beginning. So because there are other schools in which they just train you and then you have to, practice, or just finish and you've not had much practice with clients. And I don't know how I would have just done it without that, because really is so important that when you finish, when you graduate, you have that experience that you can actually start working straight away because you've been doing it throughout your course.
Tell us what trance is, because it is a very misunderstood word.
Trance, yeah. Well, I would say that trance is a relaxation response. Hypnosis or trance is not more than a relaxation response, and in the way that we use it in a therapeutic way for with therapeutic hypnosis is that it reduces unnecessary or negative stress, so that we are much able to use this part of our brain and not functioning from our limbic system so much all the time. And it opens up the mind because it enables us to it provides a context in which we can rethink some of the misguided patterns of thought and behavior from the past and decide what we want to do going forward, because it provides that really nice relaxing context in which we can rethink those patterns of thought and behavior. And it's a very positive process because some of the things that we work with as well is positive interaction and positive activity, but the positive thinking is quite difficult because it's in the mind, isn't it? And but with trance, those messages, it reinforces some of the positive messages that we discussed during the hypnotherapy sessions, because other activities that help our well-being and help producing those nice neurotransmitters, the happy chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, etc. They're easier to do. It's easy to go out with a friend for a coffee or go for a walk and produce those neurotransmitters, but the positive thinking is more difficult. And when we are in trance state and when we are under hypnosis, those positive thoughts are presented to us. Those suggestions are presented to us, and we can take them, even if they don't come naturally to us. As we've said before, in that deep state of relaxation, we can consider them. We can decide what we can take, something new that we can take, which if we were very aware, very consciously aware, with very awake, it would be more difficult if any of those suggestions clashed with our preconceived ideas.
I think that's really interesting. Coming back to my new hobby horse of consciousness, I think, this is my opinion, that trance is an altered state of consciousness where we become highly focused but unaware of our surroundings and less responsive to external stimuli and more focused internally, such as during dance or meditation or hypnosis or drumming or whatever, any kind of repetitive action. Sometimes I get into a trance when I'm swimming. So this neuropsychological process where I become more fluid in
Yeah.
understanding this introception, this neuroception of being more suggestible. I am more peaceful, as you said. And you're speaking about the relaxation response, and Herbert Benson's work has been my go-to reference of research since the 90s. So thank you for mentioning that. but I don't know. I've got an interest in trance and consciousness and hypnosis.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in your school that they
Mhm.
taught you trance on day one.
Day one. And
Uh, uh,
hypnosis. Sorry, JJ, just go ahead.
no, please, you, Karen, this is your
No,
podcast.
that is just wonderful. I mean, what we're saying, I just love hypnotherapy and hypnosis. So, all what you're saying that you're so interested in consciousness now, it's just I just wanted to say to you that it just makes total sense in the sense that hypnosis is ancient. Since the dawning of human awareness, people have been utilizing trance states, and it's important to acknowledge that altering consciousness is central to being human. And we have always sought to expand our awareness, and via our very nature, we crave new experiences and new perspectives. So that's very natural from, and we are predisposed to expand our awareness. And we also get rewarded with the feel good feeling of when we discover something, we feel that it makes a successful discovery about ourselves or solve a problem that you've
Mm.
said, you said this feeling of flow, because we kind of hardwired, if you want to want that, to crave this. And it's one of our most basic needs that we have as well. It's just natural to us to turn that.
So
And
is flow state trance? Is it the same thing?
beg your pardon?
You know, flow state by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi and his flow. Have you read any of his work?
No, I haven't.
Anyway, I'll send it to you some. But I'm just
Thank
realizing
you.
kind of the same.
Yeah.
Flow is trance. Anyway, I'm not worried about that, but I've just been thinking about consciousness, and maybe we should take this off on another tangent.
Mhm.
Actually, I'm going to stop myself because it'll definitely take off us in the wrong conversation. But what I want to know is that, can you teach trance induction, Carla? Is that part of the work that you do as a hypnotherapist?
Well, I don't teach it to my clients. I just do it for them.
But do you teach
It's not,
them,
I don't,
or you teach them any self-hypnosis?
well, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, because we'll never accept any suggestion that didn't work for us. So we are presented with a several suggestions, and we just take what works. And even sometimes we are presented with the same suggestions, but at some point in our life, this particular suggestion doesn't work for us, and we ignore it, we don't even hear it, and maybe
Mhm.
later we are ready for it, and then we accept it. So
So
we are in
how can you
control.
use hypnosis? How can you use hypnosis to make somebody rob a bank or have sex or quack like a duck?
Well, I do it all the time. I do it all the time, JJ. I don't even need to work. I just go to the bank with a bag, and I say to the bank manager, "Can you fill my bag with money?"
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Maybe you can sponsor a couple of our projects.
So, well, it's not quite like that, is it? Because, as I said, we're always in control. We not these all ideas or this it's just all kind of it's very entertaining, if you think about stage hypnosis, and but it's not mind control, and there's certain things that stage hypnotists take into account when conducting the show. So you wouldn't go if you wouldn't do anything that you wouldn't do in your conscious life. I mean, sometimes people don't do things that would be very different from what they would do in the pub with their friends, and in a night out, in the sense that if your values or your beliefs allow you to do something, you will do it. You wouldn't do something against your values, your beliefs. So it's not their hypnotist, the hypnotist, I'm not talking about hypnotherapist here, I'm thinking about stage hypnosis, doesn't have mind control. It's a collaborative effort. Both parties, subject and hypnotist, have to be working together. So it's not one
And
controls the other and all
what
this.
is also interesting is that in stage hypnosis, the hypnotist gives you license to do things without being held accountable. So you can quack like a duck without being accountable for being childish, or you can do other silly things. Maybe robbing the bank won't work so well, but I'm sure someone has tried it. But anyway, we're not here to rob banks. We are here to learn about trance. But I'm thinking, can you give us a demonstration in a round table of how to do this? Can you teach us how to do this? Just not in terms of the depths of your speciality, Carla, but can you give us a bit of like a wine tasting of how this all works?
Yeah. I can
Right.
explain, yes, I can explain the process, what we do, yes, to reach that state, to reach that
And can you
state.
actually like give us a show and tell demo?
Yes,
Okay, great.
of
I'm up.
course.
I'm in. I'm here. I'm doing it.
You're ready. Are you ready?
I'm
Have
ready.
your goals in mind just before that.
I'm gonna bring my plastic brain with me.
Very good.
So that's gonna be the that's gonna be fun to do that, Carla. I'm really excited to have this conversation. You really do understand the brain. You really are passionate about hypnotherapy, which is wonderful. I really do appreciate the expertise that you bring into the NPN Hub, and it's really great to have this conversation. So I don't know. Let's leave the podcast there. Let's leave people hanging, waiting to know how we're going to hypnotize them all to rob banks or play with their blue tack or both. Um,
Anything, yeah.
so yeah, this is very fun. Is there any like final comments that you want to add or make around the use of hypnotherapy in relationship to neuroplasticity specifically?
Well, perhaps being current now, we've talked about the past, but something that I would say is that now, these days, it's just we have all our basic needs are practically met in the West, which didn't happen on other times or it doesn't happen everywhere. But when this happens, we just turn our attention towards self-actualization and towards the pursuit, sorry, I'm going to speak in Spanish now, pursuit of happiness. Yes, so we
Habla
turn
español, señorita.
Habla español, JJ.
Ah, ya.
Bueno, lo he dicho antes. Okay. Okay, so that's what we turn our attention towards that. And that's why hypnosis becomes such a wonderful tool because from the clients I see, some of them are come to see me because they suffer from conditions such as anxiety, depression, phobias, OCD, so specific conditions. But a lot of my clients are very functional. They're very functional in their lives. They just want more. They want to live well and thrive. So that's why, our attention turns into, I want to be happier. I want to enjoy my life. I just want to achieve more. So that's when hypnosis becomes such a fantastic tool to achieve, to change, for positive change and go for our goals. So that would say that is very current in the sense that getting the past, saying that hypnosis is very ancient, but now it's got like a resurgence because it's a very safe way of altering our consciousness and moving towards our goals.
Oh, gracias,
De
Carla.
nada.
We are
Un
going to have
placer.
so much fun with you. You've got such energy. A last question, and I don't know. Actually, let me just ask it. Is hypnosis easier in Spanish or English?
I do in both. I don't know. I don't. I don't. I trained in English, but because Spanish is my mother tongue, I just don't.
And are the
I don't know.
Spanish more hypnotizable than the English?
Oh, I've never thought about that actually. I think it just works just the same because if I think about the number of sessions that it takes to get to a point, I've never noticed a difference. Never noticed a
I don't
difference.
think there's a difference, but I just thought
No.
because the
No,
Spanish
I never
language,
thought about it. Just thanks for asking.
the Spanish language is so much more of a flow, so much more of a dance. Gracias, as opposed to thank you. It's got a different rhythm to it. So I was just thinking maybe it might be easier to move into trance through hypnotic language in Spanish. Anyway, I'm totally off-piste. I'm totally off-piste. I'm really interested in the work that you're doing, Carla, and I'm really interested in the next step together. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next round table, and let's do this. We're going to have so much fun together.
See you soon, JJ. Thank you so much for inviting me today. It's been a pleasure.
It's been
You
so
take
much
care.
fun. Take care. Bye.
Bye.